Welcome to your Spiritual Besties podcast. I'm Lauren Ledoux.
And I'm Rashida McCoy. We're here to laugh, cry, learn, and connect with you.
We discuss anything and everything from our everyday lives to the magical, mystical, and woo-woo.
So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea,
and set an intention to receive, because you deserve it, bestie. Hello, Rashida.
Hey, Lauren. How's it going?
It's going fine. So for anyone listening, Rashida and I have literally been talking for like 20 minutes and we're like, oh yeah, we've got to record the podcast. So we're just pretending right now to be saying hi to each other. But I did want to say something to you and record it. And what I wanted to say is that I wanted to let you know how grateful I am for you, and that I was the kid who did group projects in school, and I would take the lead because no one else wanted to, and then I would be super resentful and do everything myself
to get it done.
Yeah,
because nobody else was participating.
Exactly. And in my professional life, I've had staff and people that I work with closely, and I have had a couple of partnerships, but by far this has been like the most easeful and like satisfying one that I've had the pleasure of participating in. So I just want to thank you for being such a good partner and making this fun and flowy and I don't want to say pulling your weight, but you do.
Well, thank you. This does not feel like work. And I think this is even more validation that we're just doing what we're meant to do. Because I feel like when you're in alignment, it doesn't feel like work, right? And I appreciate you because you handle all the things that I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And you make it look beautiful and easeful. And I'm just having so much fun doing this. So I'm so grateful for you, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun too. And I just, feel super happy about it. And, when you're an adult and making friends, it's not the easiest thing to do, but we've really made the commitment to each other. And just to be really truthful, the other day we're voice noting back and forth, and we talk every day, and I had this moment of fear of loss. I think because in childhood, I always had a best friend, and then they would move away to a different school, or I don't know, something would, nothing dramatic, but things would fall away, and I'm like, oh, I have this really close new friend, and I don't want to lose her. And then I'm like, wait a second. First of all, we don't even live in the same area. So she's not going to move away. That's not a problem. And I don't know. I think for as long as we decide to have a professional relationship, it's great. But the friendship is more important to me. And
yeah, absolutely. And that's so odd, Lauren, that you had that moment, because the other day I had the moment of, man, am I just inserting and sharing too much? I know every time we talk, I'm like, oh yeah, we're both moms, right? So everything's so relatable. And I'm like, okay, wait, am I giving myself too much? Am I just being overbearing? And then I'm like, I had this moment where I'm like, no, that's crazy. She is genuinely interested in who I am as a person and what I'm going through. And that is just maybe one, the ego, and other past relationships when I don't think they were super aligned, right?
Yeah.
So
I think when you're a giver too, it's I don't know. I think the people who are really conscious of oversharing aren't the oversharers.
Yeah, I agree. It's very true.
I have a feeling that people who do that are not very conscious of it usually. So it's never something that you have to worry about. And I think we're on the level now where if something became too much, we could tell each other that, because we've been really conscious in our friendship, which is great too. Before we started the podcast, we had a pretty detailed and long conversation about future concerns, and we just put everything out on the table, and it's really nice. That's how my marriage is. we have to be able to be straight with each other. That's how we've been married for 11 years this year. And that's what I want out of my close friendships too. And I don't want there to be like a fear of ever having to like set a boundary or saying something. Also, like we have a good understanding. It's funny, I apologize for sending like too many voice notes the other day, and you're like, girl, don't worry about it. Like voice notes are perfect for me because like I don't have to listen to them right away. And as moms, they're a lot easier to send than a bunch of texts.
Yes, absolutely. That's so true. I love a voice note because I will start a text and then like Miles will need me or Macy will say something. I'll be like, dang, I don't ever think I got back to that person, or I forget to hit send. Voice
Mhm.
notes are amazing. So keep them coming. I'm all about it.
Okay, good. So I'll switch gears for a moment. In the energy and effort of receiving, we're both nurturers. We like to give, like we love giving on this podcast. We're going to ask to receive a little bit today. So we love you all, first of all. You're all our besties, and we are super grateful every time we see a new download come up. Because that's all we can see. We don't know how many people are actually listening, but we can see how many people have downloaded episodes. We're just like super grateful, and we're, obviously we're going to talk no matter what, but having people who are listening and benefiting from this is awesome. So if you are looking for a way to give back to your spiritual besties, if you've enjoyed the episodes we've put out so far, please write a review. And seriously, pause this right now and write a review.
We'll wait for you to come back.
We will wait. And I say this because one, listening to this is probably the number one way to keep it going and help us grow. Um, but two, like letting other people know is probably the second best thing, or it's the cherry on top. So yeah, putting in your rating and review is extremely helpful for us. We don't do this for money. This costs us money and time, but we enjoy it and we believe in it. And we would appreciate that as an energy exchange. So pause.
Absolutely.
Pause and review. Do you have anything to add, Rashida?
No, and I think this is also like the perfect ask as well, coming off of our interview with Ellie,
Mm,
right? We were talking about the receiving portion, and this is just a way for us to put that into practice for ourselves. So we hear, feedback from you guys as well on a personal level. And we would just love, that exchange to be there so we can see it on the professional level as well. And we really, really appreciate
yeah,
everything.
we
Mhm.
really do. And it'll help other people who are aligned with this content find us, um, and know that, other people have given it the thumbs up. And I don't know, I look at other podcasts, uh, on Apple and Spotify and stuff, and there are so many great spiritual podcasts out there, but I don't think there's anything exactly like this. And, we're our own brand of weird. We're our own brand of cool. We are
Yes.
open-minded, spiritual moms who are coaches and body workers and energy workers. And I just know like there are a lot of aligned people out there just waiting for this type of connection. So thanks for your help, besties, and thanks for this very special talk. I feel like Danny Tanner from Full House when he like sits the girls down,
Yeah.
gives them a little like heart to heart.
I have not seen that in so long. That was like my jam. We were literally talking about TV growing up right before this.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that I would watch. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. That and like Saved by the Bell were my very favorites.
Okay, I'd have to say too, if we're going back to the 90s, I was totally like a Baywatch kid
Were
as well.
you?
Yes, and I don't even know why. I don't even know. I was a Baywatch. I was a Baywatch kid too.
Oh my God. That's going to be the quote that goes on our Instagram.
So, yeah, can you imagine little Rashida, Sailor Moon, Full House, Saved by the Bell, and Baywatch? So,
I love it. I was like a TGIF girl. I'm like waiting for my Friday night.
yes.
Yeah. And then Saturday night was, I can't remember what it was called, like Snick or something. It was like Saturday night Nickelodeon where there
Oh,
was
yes.
some good
Okay.
shows and like Are You Afraid of the Dark
Are you
was one of
afraid of
them.
the dark? Yes.
I get my scare on,
Oh,
make some popcorn, have a soda.
living on the edge, little Lauren, living on the edge.
So good. Okay, somehow we've got a segue into
I
our
know.
March Oracle reading. First
Jeez.
of all, happy March, everybody. We are
Woohoo.
we are almost to spring and we are in Pisces season. We'll be in Aries season soon enough. Uh, spring is a comin' if you are in the northern hemisphere. I love March. It's my birthday month.
And mine too.
And Rashida's too, except she's a Pisces and I'm an Aries. So it's one of my favorite months of the year, and I'm excited to like tap into the energies of it today and see what they have to tell us.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm
Okay.
ready to get my read on.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I really enjoyed the affirmation deck I used last time. So let's go with that one. I was like sitting with my decks in front of me and I was like, I'm being drawn back to the affirmation deck. And I always think it's like a good practice to have a good affirmation that we're
Yeah.
tapping into.
The affirmation of March 2023.
Hmm. And I am just like really thinking about what March represents to me. I'm seeing like little sprouts come up from the ground. I am like just seeing like roots being like really fortified and strong, pulling in the energy of the earth. And immediately three came to mind. That is pretty cool. Okay, so the affirmation that came up for March is my potential is infinite.
Hmm.
My potential is infinite.
I like that card.
Yeah, I really like the way it looks. And like when I think about, I don't know, Lauren, I'm pretty sure I've shared this with you before. When I finally like let go of all of the barriers I put up for myself, all of the this isn't going to work because all of the what will people say, I noticed my life opening and unfolding in ways that I never would have imagined. And when I tapped into that, like there was just something like I felt in my heart, and I'm pretty sure I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like gratitude, one. And then there was this like feeling in my stomach, and it's almost like that feeling of like you're not that you're going to throw up, but you're so excited. There's like maybe I feel like it's more than butterflies though.
It's like a roller coaster.
It's like a roller coaster type of feeling. And I realized it was just like this threshold that I crossed over when I realized that I can do anything that I want to do. And not so much when we think about like anything like become president type of anything, right? Not that because one, that is so not aligned for me. Um, but anything is possible. My potential is infinite and it doesn't have to be like put in this box. And I think stepping on the other side of that just gave me so much freedom to like really look at myself and my life um, in a way that I've never done before. And so this card came up right before springtime, this energy of rebirth and renewal and growing. When I feel into this affirmation, my potential is infinite. I feel like, yes, this affirmation is saying that, but like also asking us to like look into what we think our potential is, maybe in this year and this even bringing it down into like spring. What are we wanting to do? Where are we trying to go? And do we have like that energy of knowing that we can do anything as long as we're in alignment with who we are, what we are, and what we're really trying to do? So, really like that information.
Mm. I do too, and I love your interpretation of it. And you look so happy when you're talking about it. Like there's a lot of joy pouring forth because I can see how much it aligns with your truth and what you've experienced, When I think of this one, we all know, because I keep talking about it, that I'm working on a garden right now. But I
Mhm.
think of like one seed, right? And that one seed truly holds infinite possibilities. Like that one seed could start generations and generations and generations and generations of growth.
Mm,
And I think something else that's coming to me is that it's okay to plant a lot of seeds because sometimes they won't be under the right condition to grow. Like not every acorn that drops from the tree is meant to become a tree because dang, that would be like there's no room for it, right?
right.
But I think it's planting a lot of seeds and that can look a lot of different ways. But whatever you're manifesting, whatever your goal is, um, tend to it every day. If it's like connecting with people, like reach out to a bunch of people and don't expect every single one to be your best friend eventually, but maybe a couple of them will become like very strong, beautiful friendships, right? And then I don't know why this is coming up exactly, but I've had this on my mind of kind of the difference between faith and devotion. So we could like have faith in the seed that if we just throw it out into the air and it lands somewhere on the ground, that it's going to sprout. That's like blind faith, right? And maybe it
Mhm.
will, but devotion is tending to it. So watering it, making sure it has the right sunlight, it's in the right soil. Um, we show it that devotion without attachment to whether or not it will grow, but the likelihood of it growing is a lot more. So, like, we were talking about our friendship when we first started, and we're very devoted to it. Like, that's why it keeps growing, right? Because we chat every week. And, if it wasn't in alignment, then it wouldn't grow. Um, but if we're just like, we have faith that this is going to be a great friendship, and then we didn't like take the action steps for it to become that, then, what does that faith mean?
Right.
Um, I'm kind of going off of infinite
Mhm.
possibilities right here, but I want to remind everyone that to keep going, keep watering the seeds with devotion, and then let nature and the universe and the infinite possibilities that could arise surprise you. And enjoy like the symbiotic relationship between yourself and your goals or your manifestations or how you want to see the world.
Mhm. I love that so much. When you were talking, I kind of got this like, I've been getting a lot of visuals lately since we've
Mm,
been doing our our training, and
mhm,
it was almost like a mirror flip. Um, and I know we were talking about like manifestations and the things that we're calling into our life as far as the infinite potential. But when you were talking about the seeds and the growing and the light and the watering, I kind of almost had this feeling of it being we are the seed, right?
mm,
And our potential is infinite. However, like we do have to, like we would do a seed, we would have to tend to ourselves, right?
mhm,
And I feel like, this energy is almost asking us to condition correct, right?
Mm,
We're right into the third month, and what is not working for us? Do we need to add a little more water into our lives? Do
mhm.
we need to change our position and get a little more sun to really thrive? And really taking that time to kind of like look at ourselves as the plant that is growing. What is it that we need to do? Is it some inner work that we need to do? Is it some outer relationships we need to tend to? And I'm just getting this feeling that maybe now is a good time to really like look at that and maximize this time before the weather truly changes.
Mhm.
And what is going to get us to the place of fully reaching for the sun? Where do we have to change and shift? And
Yeah,
what do
get
we
your
have to
conditions
do?
right.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, that was it. That just kind of came through, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I want to expand on that because I'm totally with you. It's like, are your thoughts serving your growth,
Mm,
right? If not, it's time to like weed some of those out and plant some new ones.
hmm
Uh, is your nutrition serving your growth? If you have access to good nutrition, are your daily habits serving your growth? And then the flip side of that, besides like what are you doing, is like, are you also allowing yourself to surrender to nature and the universe to do its part? Because the plant's not going to grow itself. It's dependent on that outside factor. And um, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say other than like I do love that visual, and to me it really aligns with this month. And um, also like tap into not only your infinite potential as a person, but like nature. It's about to go
hmm
off.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. This is the time. This is the shift. I do love the coming springtime as well because like I said it's like possibilities unfolding.
Mhm.
So, we're so introspective today. We're like looking at each other like thinking.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good segue to go to our next card because I happen to pick the Green Witch Oracle
Ooh, love
by
that.
Cheralyn Darcey, and it's all like botanical and plants. So I don't know if I have a question for it necessarily, but you might focus in on what will serve your growth this month. What energies will serve
Okay.
you? And I'll shuffle my cards. I went to a local like spiritual shop and they had like, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 decks easily in this little
Wow.
shop. And I had to control myself. And I was drawn toward the Green Witch. Okay, here it is. Ooh. So the card is chrysanthemum, pardon. And its message is longevity. And there's a clock and a sun. So here is the card. And
Ooh.
I will look up the reading for it. It'll take me a second. Okay. Chris, Chrysanthemum. It comes with a quote from H. Fred Ale that says, "My green thumb came only as a result of the mistakes I made while learning to see things from the plant's point of view." Ooh, I want to read that again.
Yeah.
My green thumb came only as a result of the mistakes I made while learning to see things from the plant's point of view. Oracle meanings. A phase in which trust, completion, a sense of belonging, and peace has been reached is signified by the appearance of chrysanthemums. Deeper intimacy in relationships is highlighted, and you may want to explore this area of your life as a long-term commitment needs attention. A cycle of learning is coming to an end, or you now have all the facts you require. Creative blocks, melancholy, and weak boundaries are challenges. Hmm. And then it goes into cultivation, plant from late autumn until late spring in tropical zones, although all through spring in cold areas and in temperate environments, you can plant from late spring to early summer. This flower must have very well-drained soil that is friable and well fertilized. Good airflow and a sunny, warm, sheltered spot are also important. Okay. Magical correspondences. Uses are for truth, love, cheerfulness, healing, and boundaries. Deities are Izanagi, Izanami, who I will have to look up because I do not know them. It sounds maybe
Mm-mm.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Um, Celestial is the sun, and astrological sign is Scorpio. And there's a longevity spell that goes with it. So it has a tea recipe to add longevity to yourself and your plants. Hmm. So this is really, it's really calling to mind like long-term relationships, and not just relationships with people, but whatever you are in relationship with. And maybe the energy this month is asking you to tend to that. So this made me think of something my husband talks about sometimes. So he's been a business owner for a long time, and he's had a lot of success in business, and he's also had failures in business. And he basically, like, one of his biggest lessons is that, like, if he becomes complacent in his business, it starts dying. And I've also heard, like Ajit, one of our coaches, he says, if your business isn't growing, it's dying.
Mm.
And we can get that way in like long-term relationships too, where we become complacent, where we're just going through the motions because maybe we've reached a point of like of ease somewhat, but we're not putting in the work. And I think about that quote at the beginning of what he's learned by tending to his plants. And I think about like parenting. We were talking about parenting before we came on today. And, we make mistakes when we are not listening to our children's needs at like a soul level. Mm. I don't feel like my thoughts are fully formed yet, but I'm kind of taking in what this card has to say. What is this bringing up for you?
Yeah. Do you mind showing me the card again?
Yeah, yeah, chrysanthemum for longevity.
Okay, that's really beautiful.
Mm.
So when I too was on that same relationships, and mainly it made me think of a conversation that I had with Daniel um oh a little while ago, last month, a few months ago. Time is so weird for me these days. But we were talking about our relationship, and I told him that I feel like there's more levels to who we are, right? And I gave him this imagery of like a well. I might have shared this with you too, Lauren. I can't remember. And I said, on the surface of this well, this first level, we are good. We have water, it's clean, it, fills us up, it hydrates us, it does what it needs to do. Um, but it's just water, it is what it is. And it could be we can sustain on it, but I feel like there's more levels to who we are as a couple, as a relationship. And I said, this next level, this water, you don't need as much. And it's like this deep blue water. And there's just like this taste about it, this texture about it. And then I told him, that the other level, like you need like a drop, right? And it's just this crystalline water. It's almost like light and airy. So, anyway, I say all that to say I agree with you on like really tending to the longevity of a relationship. And, there can be so many layers to who we are. One, obviously ourselves, but when we think about relationships, sometimes I feel like it's only surface level. And if we do the things that not so much that we're supposed to do, but we feel called to do as far as tending our relationships, there can be so much more to it, right? But we first have to, one, make sure we're in alignment within the relationship, not just say, I want to hold on to this friendship or I want to hold on to this partnership because I have to. But if it is in alignment, like what are we doing to have that longevity? Time is this thing that I look at weirdly now, but when I think about Daniel and I and where I want us to go, I see us, in it for the long haul. But am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing in our marriage and our relationship to create that longevity? Currently now, yes, because we have the hard conversations. And then when I, expand that out, we literally learn we're just talking about our relationship and what we're supposed, what I keep on saying the word supposed to, but what we're doing, right, to tend to it. And then if I span that out, as far as like familiar relationships, am I doing the things that are needed to have the longevity of these relationships? And for me, yes. And then some relationships, no, because sometimes I feel like they do need to fall off and they do need to drop off to create room for the ones that I'm focusing my energy on now. So it's kind of weird how the chrysanthemum came about. And it's just pulling relationships. And I don't know if it's because we're coming off of February as well, but I feel like, yeah, it's calling for us to really like tend to those relationships in our lives and really look into them. We're coming into spring and new beginnings and possibilities, and not so much new seeds need to be planted, so to speak, as far as our relationship goes, but I don't know. I know, Lauren, you're just like in the beginning of gardening, but sometimes like the soil that has already been there has to be like tilled up and aerated to like really bring in some nutrients into the ground. So it's not so much that we need to rip everything up and like get everything going, but let's tend to some of the soil that we have here in the relationships that are in our lives.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about like yoga and spirituality too, as far as like longevity goes. So the type of yoga I practice and teach teachers to teach really has a focus on longevity.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people will start like an asana or like a physical yoga practice and they go really hard and they go so hard that they injure themselves. And
Mm.
um or they go so hard for so long that they have these like long-term injuries, and then they go see you.
Yeah.
And the approach that we take is to like not go extreme. Like we're not going to go to the very most extreme level of flexibility because is that sustainable over time? Like what's sustainable is building the muscles around the joints. What's sustainable is like moving really mindfully. What's sustainable is avoiding like repetitive stress injuries or acute injuries. So it's approaching things from I guess the perspective of like, I want to do this my whole life, so I'm going to do it in this specific way because that is what's sustainable. And that's one way I think about it. And the other is like for any long-term relationship, including like if you're a long-time yoga practitioner, sometimes you got to mix things up a little bit and get out of your
Mhm.
comfort zone and keep kind of pushing forward, but not so much that it's going to like make you crash and burn, right? So it's taking like let's say calculated risks and then like injecting some fun into things sometimes.
Mhm.
Maybe it's like trying a different style or like we're focusing on a different posture or something like that. Um, because I think like for devotion to work, sometimes it needs those injections. Like if we're like just riding on the discipline of showing up and then for years we're in this like mundane space where we're not even enjoying ourselves, like what's the point, right?
Yeah, you get jaded almost.
Yeah, for sure. And like, are you growing? Aren't we here on this planet to like keep learning and growing? So it's like finding that balance between effort and ease. Um, And then I think of like the sadhana or your spiritual practice too, where like, yes, you can get up and do the exact same thing every single day for years and years. But are you growing from it? Are you enjoying it? It's like stepping back and like being introspective every once in a while and like figuring out how to make this more sustainable, how to maintain your devotion. Um, I hope I'm not going too off the rails here, but
Mm-mm.
I love the concept of longevity, and I think that it's something we need to talk about more as a culture because everything is so like instant gratification, and you can even
It really is.
think about money. Like, are you investing? Like, do you have a portfolio? And then are you like looking at it every once in a while and making sure that you're taking the right kind of risks? And I don't know, this could be applied to like almost anything. So maybe anyone listening, think about whatever your long-term relationships are. Maybe it's your practices, maybe it's your relationships, maybe it's your money. It could run, maybe it's your garden. It can run the gamut. And like, what can you do to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but in a way that's really sustainable
Hmm.
and that fuels you to sustain it too.
No, absolutely. And I think you're totally spot on when you talk about like our culture and the instant gratification. That's such a huge thing that as a massage therapist that I deal with too. And people do keep coming back, but it's one of those things that we do have to tend to the longevity of even our bodies, right? And you can get that instant gratification, that feel good, but you still have to continue to work on it over and over again. And that's true for all aspects of our life. And sometimes if things come to us so quickly, one, mentally, we might not know what to do with it. And even to our bodies, like our bodies are super adaptable, but they adapt, and adapting takes time for
Mm,
that change to happen.
yeah. Well, I feel like we've pulled everything we can from that card.
Absolutely. My turn.
Hey, friends, let's take a cleansing breath in through the nose, out of the mouth. Now that we've taken this brief pause, I wanted to invite you to my free full moon goddess ceremony on Monday, March 6th at 6 p.m. CST online via Zoom. Join me for this free full moon goddess ceremony and let's gather to honor and celebrate the sacred feminine. You'll have the opportunity to connect with your own inner goddess and the energy of the full moon. The ceremony will include guided meditations, rituals, and practices to honor the goddess within and without. This is a space for feminines to come together in sisterhood and tap into the powerful energy of the full moon. Again, it's Monday, March 6th at 6 p.m. CST. You can sign up at laurenleduc.com. That's LaurenLeduc.com. Hope to see you there.
Okay. I should probably like pull these out next time.
No shoulds today.
I know. Why do I keep saying
I
that?
don't know.
What
I,
is up
I,
with that?
I want to
That's like,
slap those shoulds out of your mouth.
you should. Should, girl.
No, I want to lovingly take them away from you and hide them in a closet.
Yes. Okay, I feel one. One, one, one. That's like our number. One, one, one.
It is. It's when the podcast started. 111.
All right. So the one that I pulled from Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Like deck
Mm.
is Don't Dim to Fit In. It says, how are you dimming your light in order to fit in? I feel like that's been a theme since I even got on this journey of spirituality. Don't dim your light to accommodate someone else's smallness. We are all born to shine big and bright. The universe is expanding, and you are part of the universe, so expanding is part of your nature. If someone makes you want to retract, notice, and slowly back away, they are not for you, and you are not for them. Better yet, find it within yourself to expand and shine your light anyway. Flowers don't open and close according to who is walking by, they open and show their beauty regardless.
Mm.
If others don't want to be around you or you make them uncomfortable, it's because you are shining your light on the fact that they are dimming to fit in. By choosing to shine bright, you may just inspire them to turn on their light too. Or not. Keep your light on anyway. All relationships are essentially an energetic agreement. The moment one person decides to start rising up and allowing their light to shine, it changes the energetic agreement and can create some waves. This is completely normal. The relationships that are meant to last will adapt to the change in energy. Others won't because they were most likely born under the proviso of I love you as long as you don't shine brighter than me. That's okay. Not all people are meant to be in your life forever, but the lessons they teach us can still live on. And it's just saying, how are you dimming your light in order to fit in? Man,
Mm.
I kind of feel like that goes back to what we were talking about in relationships, right? And tending to things and really like evaluating where you are and where um you might be not growing as much because of the conditions that you're in. It's really pulling me back to like the previous reading that we just did. And I know me personally, I have been working very hard to not so much cause waves because that's just not like my personality, right? But to just shine. And I liked how Rebecca said, you walk up by a flower and it just shows beauty. That's what it's supposed to do. It doesn't close or open depending on who comes around. And I feel like, the key in that is when it comes to us, if we're applying that to us, once we're in alignment with who we are and what we're supposed to be doing, like we're not going to stop doing what it is that we're doing because of who's around us. We might I don't want to say change, but we might adapt in a way that is like, let's take family ties, right? Like, I will not pull out certain things like oracle cards around like my grandmother, for instance, right? But I'm not going to stop speaking my truth and saying the things that I feel called to say because I know that she might be uncomfortable. It's not in me anymore. And it's not even like a respect thing if I think about it as far as like my grandmother is concerned. Like, who am I? Who is Rashida? What does she have to say? And I'm not going to stop saying or doing the things because of who's around. And also, too, if my grandmother happens to be in my house, I'm going to pull my cards. But if I'm in her environment, maybe not. So, not so much dimming my light anymore. It's a non-option. I was a little nervous, Lauren, when we started the podcast and opening myself up to all of these things. I had that slight fear of, what are people going to think? And then it also came through, who cares what people think,
Mm.
right? Because just because they think that I'm crazy, right? Or I'm in a cult because I told you that came through to my husband. Oh, y'all are in a cult now. I'm like, get out of here.
Yes, the
Yeah,
cult of awesomeness.
right. So just because people don't understand, it shouldn't mean that I stop doing what is in alignment for me. And so yeah, don't dim your light. And maybe this is also a reminder for me to look in the areas that maybe I didn't realize I was dimming my light still,
Mm.
from that conditioning part, because I feel like we're always working on that part of ourselves that have been conditioned to be a little bit small, especially as feminines. So, yeah, what came up for you?
Well, first of all, if anyone's watching the video, my daughter wants me to dance and spin with her right now, so I'm holding my laptop and like spinning around. But what that brought up for me is actually like kind of looking at things from the other perspective of like, are you dimming someone else's light right now, or are you like pressuring someone to dim their light. And something that we've talked about
Mm,
before is like I think you said about Messiana, you're just like a prayer you have around her is like, please don't let me dim her light. Please don't let me
yeah.
dim her light. And I have the same feelings around Gemma. Like she is this bright light. And right now she's in her like natural state. And I want to create the conditions for her to like continue to shine in whatever way she will shine, in her life. And yeah, so it makes me think about that. And then I'm like, okay, what conditions can I create to let myself shine in my life? What boundaries do I need to create? What do I need to open up energetically? What gifts do I need to share
Mm,
um, to like uncage my soul and let things be what they're meant to be? I also think about like relationships with other women and how oftentimes we can feel triggered
yeah.
by them. And we feel triggered usually because they are embodying some quality that we are not embodying. That maybe it's something that is within us that wants to come out that we are pushing down or denying. Um, so and that can be really informative, right? Like, don't beat yourself up when you feel that trigger. Maybe you're scrolling through social media and someone's being like, ooh, they're really sensual. And you're like, ugh, put some clothes on that girl. What is she
Right.
doing?
Right.
What is that telling you about yourself? Does that mean like you need to tap into that aspect of yourself a little bit more? Because we're all sensual beings, we're all sexual. That's how human race persists. Um, and that's just one example. What does that bring up for you?
No, yeah, I liked your perspective on that, seriously and truly. And as soon as you said that, it kind of took me back to a moment before I was on this journey that I got triggered a lot.
Mm,
I really did. And I didn't realize it was my own shit. It was me, right? And I wanted someone else to be small to make me comfortable because I wasn't willing to look in the mirror and like really like see me and what I needed to work on. And you're so
mm,
true. Just around like that sister wound, that witch wound, it's so real and prevalent. Um, and yeah, where am I? Could I be dimming someone else's light too? That's actually a really good journaling prompt, Lauren, because I think that's something that we really should think about as well. Like we do the inner work for ourselves, right? But let's like
mm.
going back to the quote that you had in your first card, he was like, I learned from the plant's perspective. Like sometimes I think it's okay for us to like be outside of our own perspective, and that is in regards to like the people around us, right? Or what we're doing and saying. Like, am I doing or saying anything that's going to dim someone else's light? And I'm very aware of that with my daughter because that's what actually started me on this journey. But how am I doing that with other people and other relationships that I have, or even like in business, right? So I'm totally vibing off what you said.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, drawing back to more of like the self perspective too. I guess we'll just shift from one to the other. You know, this is my experience because like this year I'm really magic is my word, but I'm also really committed to like shining more, or letting myself shine more, I should say, getting out of my own way, showing more of myself publicly and privately too. Um, you know, somebody described me as mysterious lately, which cracked me up, but I was like, maybe there are parts of myself that I'm not sharing. And not that I have to share everything, but like maybe there are parts. But really, like shining your light is a lot like being naked, right? Like
Mm,
it can feel very vulnerable because when you're fully
yes.
showing yourself, it's like, okay, you're opening yourself up to attract a lot of good, and you're also opening up yourself to potentially trigger people, um, and get attacked by
And get
haters
attacked. Yes.
or trolls or
Yes.
whatever it might be. But nudity or nakedness is our natural state.
Yes.
And, we're all born naked. And as RuPaul says, and the rest is drag. The rest is like a show that we're putting on, basically. Clothes are for protection, blah, 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 too. But, shining our light is our natural state and it can feel very vulnerable. But like how beautiful it is and normal and good to like go back to that natural state. And like how beautiful is it that our natural state is to shine?
Yeah. And once we do so, I feel like it becomes, part of that deconditioning process. Once we learn how to really like tap into our inner light and bring that forth, then it becomes natural. It doesn't feel something put on. It doesn't feel out of balance. But, for some of us, even me, 30 years of no one directly said, oh, you need to be small, but it's the world in which we grew up. It's
Hmm.
how I was raised. You don't get a say. I don't care why you did what you did. Your voice does not matter, you know. And that was my experience and how I was raised. So I've had all of this time that really taught me to be this one way, to be small, to not be seen, to not be heard, that I don't matter. My worth is nothing. Like I'm just here. And when we get to the point in our lives where we realize that we are supposed to shine because we are meant to light up this world in
Yeah.
a big way, and there's so many of us that are meant to do that. In a way, all of us are. Because one, it's going to take us to a completely different place. This mundane world that we live in might be totally changed if we all can turn that light on. But when we realize and take that back for ourselves, there's like a fire that's lit within you to like do more of that,
Mm.
to shine brighter.
Yeah. I think of back to our garden and plants, like they need the sun to grow. And if you can be a light source, it helps others grow. And this doesn't happen in nature, but then they become their own light source,
Yes,
right?
yes. Well, and also too, Lauren, I saw a reel and it was somebody had asked a question. I can't remember what it was on. It was like they're like, man, it's the sun, why is space dark if the sun is in space? I don't understand. And I think it was like meant to like make her look stupid, but
Mhm.
you don't it's not stupid. Like you have to ask the questions if you truly don't understand. But the guy, I think he was like a scientist or something, and he was like, well, because the world has things for the light to bounce off of. That's why things are bright. That's why things are brighter. If there was light in space, yes, it's there, but there's nothing for it to bounce off of. So if we take that into context of what we're talking about, there are people here with other lights, the other things that we're supposed to bounce our light off to be able to make this beautiful, bright world. That's why all came here on this planet to do that, to reflect off of each other and create beauty. Otherwise, we're just floating around in space where there's nothing. It's dark, it's dim, it's
Mm.
cold, and that's not where we want to be.
No. Oh my God, I love that metaphor. It is so much better than the one I just presented with the garden. But it's so true. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we ready for our last card?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I have a spirit animal oracle from Colette Baron Reed. And yeah, what animal energies, what animal medicine are we tapping into? And I'm loving like having these natural elements today.
Yes, it feels good. It feels right.
Yeah. All right, the brown bear spirit. Hmm, this feels really different than our other cards today.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, take time out.
Okay.
Brown bear spirit. You see that, Gemma? There you go. She said no.
thought I did, but I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Brown bear spirit. Her arm is stuck in my overalls. Okay. Take time out. There is a time to act and a time to focus your attention on patient strategizing. The arrival of brown bear spirit signals that you are best served by foregoing hard work toward your goals at this moment and instead taking the time out to meditate or just take a nap so you can refresh yourself and begin planning what you want to co-create next. Come to know the lay of the land as you contemplate and imagine what you might do in the vast space of possibility before you and begin forming a plan. Remember, sleep allows for dreaming and rest allows for clear-headed strategizing. How might you become the person you wish to be and experience whatever your heart desires? Insights will arise as you explore the possibilities and begin envisioning your plan. Knowing what you want will ensure you use your energy wisely in the days ahead. Be patient at this time. Relax and be calm and peaceful so you can recharge. The call for action will come later. I feel like this card is bringing like the balance that we need into this reading and also calls back to like the infinite potential of the very
Mm-hmm.
first card. And this definitely encompasses like the creative process for me. So yeah, it's not all action. We can't force. I guess we are talking about nature a lot, right? And nature doesn't
Yes.
force. And I think about a couple things. Like one, before we do readings, we meditate.
Yes.
I mean, we meditate so that we can receive. We don't just plow ahead without taking that time to pause. For me, some of my best and most fruitful creative ideas, I also actually say like most of them have come from a place of like going inward and rest and relaxation. I come up with so much better ideas. Let's say getting a massage or taking a shower or laying down at night than I would like on a whiteboard, writing down a ton of ideas. And I know there are different strategies
Techniques,
for the
yeah.
creative process. But for me, like when I rest and then I get the download for whatever it is, then I can like fill in the strategy. Um, like for my book, for instance, that just like downloaded to me, at least like the concept of it and what it kind of looked like and felt like on a walk outside. And then I went in and created the outline for it, right? So I could flow
Mhm.
within that. Um, so yeah, I'm thinking like for anyone listening, if you're at a crossroads where you're needing clarity and insight, maybe for a creative project, for whatever it is, to take the time to pause and to do it without the intention of receiving the creative download, because even that is an act of striving. It's like action, but just rest to rest and maybe it'll come. What about you?
Yeah, I like how this did bring like a kind of like calming different energy into our reading today. And I feel the same exact way. What I was getting was, how before I started the act of like meditating, I found myself like forcing things to happen, and they weren't always like the best quality, right? Um, in a world that's taught to like be faster, 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 sometimes it's so hard to slow down.
Mm.
But in the slowing down, in the silence, like we can learn to get clear. And I really think like this card is asking us to just gain some clarity, and not so much clarity like to get to the next step or to do the next step, but just clarity, period. reminds me of like the moments of 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. in my house when the kids are asleep before Miles wakes up again. And at first, like, I'm like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, because all day I haven't been able to, right? But then I've gotten in this habit of like, okay, let me be still, let me sit here, let me meditate for a moment. And I realized that all of these little things that I wanted to do doesn't really matter. And I'm able to like come from a place of what is going to serve me the best in this moment. And it's because I slowed down. I took some time to like really think about what it is I'm needing. That clarity is key. And also, too, if I don't get to the stuff that was on my list, I try again the next day. But because I've always come back to that place of stillness, it doesn't matter. I don't feel bad for not getting to it. It doesn't feel like a need to have to like have this action done anymore. And did things get left to the side? Absolutely. I feel like we spoke about this before, but I feel like your soul is always trying to like connect with you and talk to you.
Mm,
And it does that in the way of like emotions and feelings. And sometimes on our everyday, right? Like in moments, like we get that in moment feedback from our emotions, right? And that's our spirit or our soul really connecting and talking to us. And it's in the stillness of those moments of like meditation or just being calm and sitting back that we actually get to commune with ourselves in a much deeper way. And when we take that time out and let everything like fall away, like you said, that's when we receive the downloads. That's when we get that clarity around our lives. And, then we can decide, oh, well, that path really didn't matter, but I'm going to go this way and I'm going to do this. And again, for me, it's just all coming back to like just really being aligned.
mm. Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And alignment was coming in strong for me too, in that this also speaks to me about knowing yourself really well and being able to listen to and align to your energy and its flow. So that doesn't mean you have to slow down and rest if you're on a roll or if you're in a flow with something. By all means, listen to that. Do what you need to do. But if your body is asking you to rest and you refuse and have another cup of coffee or, then you're not listening to nature. You're not listening to your body's natural impulses. Um, I also think about this in another way. We're both generators in human design, so we have like a good amount of energy to put out. And sometimes rest looks active.
Hmm.
So rest for me doesn't, I mean, it rarely looks like laying flat on my back because let's face it, I have a toddler.
Feel that.
Yeah. Um, but it might look like uh it's fun, like having fun.
Hmm.
It might look like hanging out outside. It might look like, in the warmer months, having a kayak ride or, taking a walk. Like, it's not just like laying down and closing my eyes. It's just whatever is restorative and rejuvenating. Like, it might be doing something that gives you energy, not something that takes away your energy. And I like one of my colleagues, Sarah Kusera, she has written a couple books on Ayurveda, and one of them, she talks about your prana piggy bank. So prana is like your life force energy, and there are things that take money out or prana out and things
Hmm.
that put them in. So it's like really considering like what gives you energy, what restores you, what rejuvenates you. And yes, rest, absolutely. We need that time and sleep. Someone tell my daughter that, please. And we also,
And my son, please.
but we also need to like not just spend our days doing things that drain us and never fill that back up.
Well, and also too, Lauren, when you if I take the perspective of this card and what it's asking us to do, when you said that, it also like got me to thinking of, are we actually taking that time out, that slowness. Because when I think of a brown bear, like I know they're not slow. Like if I got face to face with a brown bear, I don't know what would happen. So I know they're not slow, but when I think of like their energy, it's like this like slow, like just going through the forest and the meadows type of energy. And when you're like, hey, it might be like a kayak or it might be like having fun. And when I think back to the work your light card, like, are we taking the time to one, slow down and ask ourselves, are these things like what I want to do? Right. So I feel like sometimes when we get called to do things, it's because someone else wants to do them. And we think we're having fun. And, it's fun in the moment, but man, sometimes it could be so exhausting. So I know for me, yes, I'm a, man gen. I have my own energy, but there are certain times when I go out, I could do all these things and I can just keep going because it's restorative for me. But there are other times that I'll do things and I'm just like so exhausted. And 9 times out of 10, when I sit down and think about the difference, because I'm doing, but when I think about the difference, it's because the other action wasn't aligned for me, but I had to slow down, in that moment and realize, okay, these are the things that are not for me anymore. And these are the things that aren't. It's not that I can't go out, but I can't go out in this way. But if I'm always like constantly going out and constantly doing these things, I'm not going to see that difference. Right.
Mm.
So for me, this card is really like speaking to that. Take that moment, right? Take that stillness, meditate on certain things. Like if you notice a shift, I feel like a lot of my life, I would not pick up on the cues of my body.
Mm.
And I would just, like you said, just go. But even like you don't have to meditate for like 30 minutes, but even like 5 minutes, like take that 5 minute mark and just like tap into like what's going on in your energy. And there can be like a big change. So yeah, this card is, I feel like, is just calling to slow down
Mm.
and get clear.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling complete here.
Yeah.
What are your biggest takeaways from this reading?
So if I were to say my biggest takeaways is find that time to slow down and get clear. In doing that, will create longevity in my life. I will be in alignment. And if I am in alignment with what I'm doing, it's sustainable. And I will naturally be able to shine in a way that's meaningful for me
Mm.
and to gives permission for others to do the same.
Yeah. And when you do that, you are tapping into infinite possibilities, infinite
Yes,
potential.
absolutely.
Boom.
There it is. Mic drop or mic up, maybe.
That
We're
is
so goofy.
wrapped together in a perfect March bow. I
There
love
we
it.
go.
Our
Love
little
it.
birthday presents for you and
Yes.
me.
Do you have any plans yet for celebrating?
No.
No,
Do you?
no.
Yeah, I will. I'm thinking actually like more ahead because next year, 2024, I turn 40. So it'll be a
Ooh.
more milestone type year. But this one, I don't know. I have no idea. My husband wants to build like a little pergola in our garden for my birthday. So that's something that is sweet that we might do. But other than that, I don't
Other than that,
know.
okay. I'm gonna like really think about it and like could just kind of do something maybe a little different. But I don't know. Like you said, it's not a milestone birthday, so I'm like, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But it's something to celebrate for sure. And I'll think of a way to do it. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, not to bring the bear back, but I, I have a way of like not, or I have in the past. I've been better at it lately, but just going and not taking the time to like pause and celebrate. So it can be easy to be like, it's just another birthday, blah, blah, blah. But it is an opportunity to like pause and celebrate and look back on the past year and like look forward to the next year and really take stock. And honestly, like I feel like, I don't know, 2023, 2023 has already felt like one of the best years of my life. Like I feel like my light shining. I I'm so happy, like in so many different areas. I spend my days doing things that feel meaningful to me. Um, that I don't know, maybe I should celebrate a little bit more this year because I feel like I have so much to celebrate and be grateful for.
I love that. There you go, taking that time to really think about that. Well, Lauren, it's been so awesome. Just like every other week we get together, and I feel like we deepen and get better at the readings and just like find so much more to life because I don't think life is not superficial, right? And the deeper we get, the just more grateful I feel for our friendship
Yeah.
and relationship. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we are so grateful for all of you listening. Um, review us.
Let us know what you think.
Not only like will it help us out if you review us, but we are genuinely curious to receive that from you. And we want to know what your biggest takeaways are and how it feels, to connect with us on a weekly basis. I hope that it's adding value and connection and more love and introspection and magic to your life, because it is to ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you want to really tap in and give us like any ideas or what you may think, or even like what you would want Lauren and I to talk about, like
Yeah.
we're down for that too. Hit us up on Gmail and let us know. Like
Mhm.
I love outside like
Yeah,
inspiration and questions. So
absolutely. All right. Shall we close it up?
yeah, girl, let's do it.
All right. Thanks everyone so much. Thank you, Rashida. You're amazing. I love you.
Love you too. Bye, bestie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible episode. If you loved it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell all your besties about us.
You can also connect with us on Instagram at Your Spiritual Besties Podcast. And be sure to say hello and share your thoughts about the episode. Love you, bestie. Talk soon.